Alright, welcome to video 2 of going over your graphing study guide. We're on number 10. What is the difference between a line graph and a scatter plot? So a line graph is always over time. They're very similar because both of them use dots. They're the only two graphs that have the dots, besides the dot plot, but that have an X and a Y with the dots. And on a line graph, the dots are connected. But with a scatter plot, shows correlation between two variables, and it has to be quantitative, so I'm going to say that, between two quantitative variables, and has a trend line or a line of best fit. So the line of best fit doesn't connect the dots, so it looks kind of something like this. If you have a scatter plot, so there's a bunch of dots, so the line of best fit would be a straight line through those. Where a line graph, it's connected. Okay, number 11, we're calculating the 5-number summary for the data. So this is what you do for a box plot. We don't have to make the box plot, just calculate the 5-number summary. So first is your minimum, and looks like the data is already in order for us, so the first step would be to put the data in order, but I did that. So your minimum is 2, and then the maximum is 16. Then we find the median, so the number in the middle. So when I do that, I get the number 8. I'm going to circle it. So now when I find quartile 1, it's the median of this first half. I don't include this median, so I'm not including the 8, so I start with the 6 and the 2, and I find the middle number, which is this 4 right here. So quartile 1 is 4, and then quartile 3. So this half of the data, I do not include the median, so I start with the 9 and the 16, and here's the number in the middle. So quartile 3 is 12. Okay, number 12. Choose any method you want to graph the following data. So we have talked about 8 different methods. So I'm going to show you all the different methods, what you can and can't do. Alright. So if you're thinking scatterplot, the answer is no, it's impossible because you have to have 2 variables. A line graph is also impossible because we don't have time. It has to be over time. A pie chart and bar graph are both no's because those are both for qualitative data and we have quantitative data. A dot plot I would not recommend because the range is too large. Like you go from 123 all the way up to, what's the biggest number? 356 maybe? So that's a lot of dots to do. And if you look, I don't see any numbers repeating. Do you see any numbers repeating? So your dot plot would be way spread out and you'd only have 1 dot. Like none of them would be stacked, so a dot plot wouldn't be appropriate. A stem plot. Yes, you can do a stem plot. Just think about it though. What would the place value be for the stem and the leaf? On the left side, would the place value be tens? Would it be hundreds? But you can do it, and I'll show you an example of how you can do the stem plot. Next I have histogram and box plot, and those are both good methods to use. So on my graph paper, I'm going to show you how to use these 3 methods, what they would look like, and because these other ones would not work for this large data range. It's a really large range with large numbers, so these ones would not work. Alright, so on my graph paper, I actually drew out all 3 of these for you. So to do a stem plot, box plot, and histogram, to do all 3 of those, the first thing you'd have to do is put the numbers in order. So I first put all these numbers in order, and I marked them off as I went, so I had them in order. Then I counted that there are 17 numbers here, and I went back and I made sure, and there are 17 numbers on my paper as well. So I'm starting with the stem plot. So if we make the left side tens, so these numbers would be on the right. So if you think the left side, we'd have to go from 12 all the way to 35. And with stem and leaf plots, you can't skip numbers. So counting 12, then you have to count 13, 14, 15, 16, all the way to 35 would be a really, really long stem plot. So that wouldn't be the way to do it. If this only went to like 25, then you could do that, 12 and counting to 25 or 19, then that would work. And you can make tens be the stem. So instead, actually, I made the hundreds place the stem. So if I move this over, I'm going to use the hundreds place. So I'm going to have the 1 and a 2 and a 3 in my hundreds place. So on my stem and leaf plot, here it is. I have a 0 here, but there's no numbers. But then 1, 2, and 3 is the hundreds place. So you might be thinking, well, how would you graph these two numbers? What I do is I actually just take off this third digit. I treat this as 120, that as 120. This is going to be 170. That's going to be 180, 190, and so on. So we actually just kind of ignore that last digit, pretend that they're all zeros. So basically we're rounding them all down to 0, the last digit. And this is how your stem plot would look. So 220s, 170, 180, 290s. Here's the 290s. So we're just using rounding, and you can make a stem plot just fine. Again, I didn't give any units for this, like I didn't give context, so I couldn't give it a better title than this. We will for the test. And don't forget, you always have to have a key. So this time the 1/2 means 120, not 12. That's why the key is important. So that's how you could do a stem plot. Now the next thing I did was a histogram. So you can count by a few different things. You can count by 30s. You can count by, 30s work. I did 25s just because they're nicer numbers to write down. So 25 is going to give me a little bit more bars, but that's okay. I told you, like, you can have a few more bars and it's okay, but you don't want less than 5. 5 is the absolute minimum. So I went by 25s, and I did a little heartbeat since I didn't start at 0. I used the ruler for everything. Everything's evenly spaced out and labeled. And so I just counted how many numbers are between 100 and 125. That wouldn't count 125. It only counts 123, so that's why there's only a 1. And there's only 1 here, 125. There are no numbers between 150 and 175. This 175 here goes in this bar, 175 to 200. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. 4 numbers, so this bar goes up to 4, and so on. So that's what a histogram would look like. And then finally we have our box plot. So here's another one where I had to figure out what to count by. And I decided to count by tens, but I labeled every other one for 20. And I had to do the 5-number summary. So back over here, we have our max and our min. I found the middle number, the median. So then you circle it. Then I don't count that to find the quartiles. So here's quartile 1, so I find the middle number. And it's between these two numbers right here. So I had to average them. Same with quartile 3 here. If I find the middle, it's between these two numbers, so you have to find the average. So I wrote my 5-number summary down. Min and max, your median. And so you can see here, to find the average for quartile 1 and quartile 3, sorry, I'm trying to get it so you can see it. You add the two numbers up and divide by 2. Add the two numbers up, divide by 2. So quartile 1 is 191, quartile 3 is 302.5. And so there's my box plot for those 5 numbers. So you have the median is the line in the middle. Your box goes from quartile 1 to quartile 3. The minimum and maximum using a ruler. Everything's nice and even, title, units, and everything. So if you did one of these methods, I would pause the video on the graph that you chose and compare your graph with my graph very thoroughly, because I will grade these thoroughly. Okay, our last set of questions is kind of like matching. There's a little typo here. This has a B that shouldn't be there, so stem plot is the letter E. So you look at the picture and you figure out which type of graph it is. So this would be a bar chart, 13. So we find bar chart. The bar graph here is H, so you put letter H for number 13. And here's number 14, that's a dot plot. So 14 would be a dot plot D. And here's 15, that is a scatter plot. So that would be C. 16, notice the bars are touching, so that is a histogram. So that's an A. 17 is a pie chart. So that's letter B. 18 is a box plot. So that would be letter F. 19 is a stem and leaf plot, and 20 would be a line graph. So stem plot for 19, letter E, and 20 is a line graph, and so that would be letter G. So there's the answers for 13 through 20. So watch this video as much as you need. Study, study, study. Good luck on your summative quiz.